Hi yogis, Katy here. This short video is going to cover half pigeon or other outer hip stretch alternatives. So I always get requests for hip stretch, and half pigeon doesn't work for everyone's body. So this video will tell you some other alternatives you can do when your instructor cues half pigeon. All right, so starting off, what is half pigeon, just to see if it's right for you or not. So half pigeon can be taught a number of ways, and it really depends on how your knee is. So I always like to tell people it's not that you're not flexible enough for half pigeon, or not young enough, not whatever enough, blah, blah, blah. It's really about your knee joint. And if you're feeling pressure on your knee when you do this pose, or if you're not feeling a stretch in the hip at all, something's not right and we should reevaluate. So I always just like to point out that it's not always about how good of a yogi you are about not doing a pose or doing a pose in a different way. Sometimes it's just about your skeleton, which that's how we're born. There's not a lot we can do to change those things. So just listening to your joints so that you can have a very long, healthy yoga practice if you want it. So half pigeon is the one where typically you'll be in a three-legged down dog and then you'll bring your leg forward. Now, the question I get a lot is, where is my shin supposed to be? So this is where the knee joint gets involved. So for a lot of people, it might be kind of at like a 45-degree angle compared to the top edge of your mat. So kind of with your heel or your toes more towards your groin. If that's the angle that feels best for your knee, you'll want to flex your foot so that the top of your foot is on the ground. So you're not like cramping your ankle, trying to like get your toes up there or something like that. Just flex your foot so that you have this nice long line along the top of your shin. And then, if we're tight in our hips, we might support ourselves with a block or come down to the block on our forearms. If it feels okay, we might come down all the way to our mat or rest our head down. Now, the other thing I want to show you on this, and I'll switch legs to show you, is what's going on between our hip and the floor. So a lot of times, especially if people have pain in their joint that they don't want to address, they'll just rest on this hip. So they'll set kind of their outer thigh and their butt down on the ground, and they'll just hang out right here so that they're taking pressure off of the knee joint, which makes sense because you don't want your knee to hurt. But when we lay down on our hip like this, we're not getting any of that hip stretch. So kind of what's the point in doing it, right? So if we're feeling pressure and pain here in our knee joint, and we feel like we have to lay on our hip to support it, not the right answer. We need to do one of the alternatives that I'll show you next. If it's just a matter of, ooh, my hip's just a little tight, my knee's not painful, but my hip's a little tight, and I feel like I don't want to stay here like this, you can slide a block or a blanket right underneath that hip that's elevated off the floor. And again, still getting that hip stretch. It may also help with just minor pain in the knee if it's not a big deal, but if you're really feeling tense in that joint and that's why you can't hold the pose, then not doing it at all. But sometimes sliding that block under there can help. So from your half pigeon, having your sacrum squared, not with one hip on the floor. Now, another cue that instructors love to give, that sometimes people think they have to do it this way or they're supposed to do it this way, is bringing the shin parallel to the top edge of the mat. So your knee is more at like a 90-degree angle. So you're paralleling your shin with the top of their mat. Not everyone's knee joint is going to be able to handle this. And again, it's skeletal. It's not about you being a bad yogi, okay? So if your shin does not go parallel to the top of your mat, don't force it. If it does, great, awesome, good too. Instead of pointing your toes, you'll flex your toes towards your knee, and that'll help protect your knee joint. So the bottom of your foot, will be flexed like you were walking and not pointed like a Barbie. And same thing, we can lower down as far as we'd like so that we feel the outer hip stretch. So outer hip, outer butt cheek, that's what we're going for. Now, if neither of those versions were working, if the 45-degree angle put too much pressure on the knee, two alternatives I want to show you today. The one that I mentioned I didn't show in the other video from back in the day is seated figure 4. So you'll extend one leg out in front of you, seated half pigeon, cross the other leg, shin on top of your thigh, like you're making a number 4. It's gonna, when you look down at your legs, it looks like an upside down number 4. Perfect, that's what we want. Bend your knee of your leg that's straight. Right away, hopefully feeling some of this outer hip stretch. I have pretty open hips, and even for me, I can feel a little stretch happening right in that area where we want to feel it. If your knee is still a little sensitive, flex your toes towards your knee. So knee and toes go towards each other. You can either lean back and bring your legs closer to you as your hips open. So the closer our leg and our chest get, the more hip stretch we're getting, using your hands to kind of support you. My preference, because I have a little bit weaker wrists, might be your case too, is kind of grabbing onto my legs and then keeping your spine tall. So we don't want to do this little like turtle shell, crouching down. You want to keep your spine long and bringing your chest a little bit closer to your shin. So either way, the closer your legs and your chest get, the more we're getting that outer hip stretch. Now, for some people, still too much on the knees. If you've had knee replacement surgery, if you've had ACL surgery, things like that, those options in seated may still not feel comfortable. We don't want joint pain. You can come down to your back, okay? So same thing on your back. One foot is on the floor, other ankle crosses over the thigh. Hand of the leg that's crossed comes through the middle, and then you just pull your legs in towards your chest. So again, flexing the toes towards the knee, especially if there's any kind of knee discomfort or past injury or surgery. Sometimes it feels better to grab the front of the shin instead of the back of the hamstring. As long as that's okay on your knee, great. Again, just holding and breathing, letting that outer hip release, and always be sure to do evenly on both sides. I just wanted to show you the options available to you. So hopefully, one of those options will feel great, will make sense in your body. And now you know next time you go to a class or you do one of my videos, if I cue half pigeon or someone else cues half pigeon and you know that that doesn't work for your knee, you can either do the seated or the supine, the laying down versions. So hopefully that helps with your half pigeon. Enjoy those hip stretches and let me know if there's anything else you want next time. Namaste.